Alright, I think I'm live. Probably, maybe, not sure. There's probably a delay or something, but alright, guys, I'm back. This time I'm really streaming while my laptop is plugged in, so there won't be a repeat of the previous video where I stream and I talk about two games and then all of a sudden, my laptop runs out of battery and I need to stop the stream. The reason I'm not streaming here instead of my previous location is because, as you might have noticed, my background here isn't too clean. Um, like literally, it's not very clean. You can see murky water in the background there. But I guess you have to do because the Wi-Fi here is decent. I guess not the best, but it's not the worst either. And at least I get to sit in a chair instead of sitting upright with nothing supporting me. So I guess that's that. Uh, anyway, here I'll be actually looking at game 3 of my game in NUS Invitationals. This was actually a very interesting game. I wouldn't say I'm proud of this game, but it's definitely worth studying. So, um, as I mentioned in my previous video, this was where I managed to play a Karokan, and I was pretty excited to do so because I haven't played E4 seriously in I think maybe years. I don't know. But I played e4, played c6, d4, d5, c5, and we get an advanced Karokan. He goes for the main line, bishop f5, and I play the variation that I've been studying, the Tal variation, named after the magician from Riga, Mikhail Tal. So the reason why I decided to study this Tal variation were because of some master games, like games by grandmasters that were very interesting, and I saw many lines that um, even if the evaluation wasn't very good for white, but there are many positional ideas. And for example, there's a joke where people say that the people who play Caro are the ones who want to play the French, but they love bishops more, something like that, because in the French structure, right? The French defense is the opening after black plays e6, and after white continues with d4, and then black plays d5. So in this structure, it looks a lot like what happened in the game, like this, except with this pawn instead of this pawn. So the difference is that if you move this pawn, your bishop is free, and then eventually at some later date you can move your bishop here. So you like your bishops more compared to a French where if you move this pawn, your bishop is kind of stuck here, and your bishop is like eh. So um, there is that idea, and the Tau variation, in my opinion, completely nullifies black's bishops and makes the game all about knights instead. So you might be able to see a little bit of that in this game and another one of my games where I played the Cairo Khan. So I play h4. h5 is the main move. Pretty much one of the more sensible moves. You stop white from pushing h5 himself, and you leave a square open for the bishop. You don't want to get your bishop trapped. However, ironically, in the Tau variation of the Caro-Kann, the bishop is more suitably placed on this diagonal, this what do you call this c8 to h3 diagonal, than this h7 to b1 diagonal. So if this bishop is attacked, most of the time it will retreat somewhere here instead of here, which might sound a bit counterintuitive, but that's exactly why the Tau variation is so nice to play for white, because it makes black make a lot of unintuitive moves. So I play a move that the engine hates, bishop g5. Now this move is bad because uh, you're not the bishop isn't really doing anything on paper, and black can quickly punish this move uh, by playing queen b6 or queen a5. Like both have similar ideas, like either this move or this move, to get out of the way of this bishop and also attack the pawns and the squares that are left weakened because of this extended bishop. So I think if I recall properly, I think engine like computer will probably say something like this, and you have to go back or something absurd like that. But I remember studying this game by I don't know who, where, what, when, but the concept was to allow the queen to capture the pawn and then trap it afterwards. So it's magical lines like these that make me feel attracted to this opening and decide to study it a bit more, and actually decide to play in this serious tournament, which I decided to take 100% seriously. I wanted to achieve perfect score, as I mentioned in the previous video. So this studying is no joke. It's not something that I'm like, oh, trying it out because it looks cool. I actually believe in this opening, and I want to learn more about it. So he does play Queen B6, and I play my idea, which is Queen D, Bishop to D3. So Bishop to D3, the main idea is you're inviting and sort of you're forcing Black to actually trade light square bishops, and you remove a Caro-Kann's player's greatest joy, his light square bishop, and uh, you make the light squares around Black's king weaker, um, and with your dark square bishop and your queen on a very active square, you are in prime position to punish it if Black makes any misstep. In the game, my opponent made a blunder. He took the pawn right away instead of taking my light square bishop. Now here, I actually studied this line before, and I think the right way to play this is to take the bishop. Yes, your rook is under attack, but your rook is not as strong. One rook is not as strong as these two beautiful bishops. Like imagine if I take the bishop here, and he takes my rook. Look at these two bishops, my pawn and my queen getting ready to enter the battle. Like, of course, my knight still needs to be defended. Like, I can't give away this knight with check. But look at this beautiful formation here against Black's king, and it seems like Black doesn't understand the concept of development with all of his pieces still on the back rank, with very difficult ways to develop them. Just like you see, this knight is blocked by his own pawn. The rook is stuck. The rook can't move anywhere. All of these squares are controlled. The knight can't really move out comfortably. This square is blocked. The bishop is locked. And yeah, if you want to try and make space for your pieces, then you're going to open up yourself to a lot of very dangerous and very fast attacks from white here, as your king is still in the center. So that was what I should have played. I think I could have exploited it immediately with I think e6. E6 is the move. I think, yeah, it should be a common theme where Black can't afford to push and allow a very strong light square attack. But at the same time, if Black takes, his pieces are never getting out ever, kind of deal. So instead, I did not play that, but since I was overexcited at this point, because in the variation where Black takes my bishop first, here, and then only takes, there is a variation where I can trap the queen, in which after I play e6 and then he takes the rook, I have this move queen b3, and then I think the best move here is something like, maybe not the best move, but the best try is to play something like this to try and chase away the queen, where I will be able to play bishop back. I can retreat my bishop after it has done its purpose here, pressuring the diagonal. I can bring it back because I want to win the queen here. Wherein Black would be pretty much forced to push, try to kick my queen away. I can take the pawn, and this move is coming next. So Black doesn't have time to save the queen because I'm threatening checkmate here. So he has to move the knight away, and then I'll be able to that doesn't help because I'm threatening checkmate here as well. So let me see, is there a good move for Black? How does Black even even skip checkmate. I think takes maybe takes, but then I win the rook here. Takes here, takes. No, this is no. He can't take because this is to checkmate. If this takes, this is to checkmate. No, takes here, here. What is wrong with my calculation? I can't even remember the line that I studied. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't remember it anyway. But I didn't remember it during the game as well. Such was the poorness of my preparation. I remember all the concepts, all the ideas, but I didn't remember any of the exact lines. And as I mentioned in my previous video as well, and as I mentioned over and over again, uh, raw lines, like actual specific move by move lines, uh, I'm not very good at that. I always think in terms of like one move, one move, one move, or in very abstract concepts. So as you can see, even in my overview, I can't even remember what I studied before the tournament, which makes sense because I didn't remember it during the tournament as well. So anyway, this was the idea. I wanted to trap the queen. Um, so instead of taking the bishop and playing the line that I studied, I decided to go for another line which shouldn't happen that I also studied instead by playing uh, knight f3. I defend the knight first, and I defend the pawn over here first. Um, I defend the pawn over here first and try to transpose into the same line where after takes I'll be able to try and trap the queen again. Which fortunately that happened. He did take my bishop. I took my rook and I locked the queen in. He played knight to d7 and here I think I should have played e6. I think this was a pretty good time to play e6, force him to recapture, and then only I play bishop d2. But I was hyper excited. I was too excited to trap the queen, and I played bishop d2 right away. So I still think I'm better, but it's now not so winning because a5 now comes in time. The the knight uh, has developed, and I don't threaten checkmate anymore. So I attack the queen. He attacks my queen. I take. He attacks my queen, and I'm forced to take, and we exchange. So in this position, I'm still better. Uh, his pawns are loose. My pieces are actually more active than his. My knight here is nicer than these three pieces, and my rook will be able to get into the game quicker. So I decided that the best way for me to develop was to not play c3, although that was very tempting, because I think c3 would actually, although solidify my position, I think it would take longer for me to develop because he's going to develop using e6 and then move his bishop out somewhere, bishop out somewhere, and then move his knight out somewhere, and get into the position rather quickly. Although now when I look at it, if I play c3 and he does play c6, his bishop doesn't really have any squares to go to, and then I might have enough time to develop. So maybe c3 is okay, but I thought that I can develop quicker by playing knight c3 instead, inviting him to pin me. But this is of course completely fine. Uh, I'm not going to castle. My knight is defended by the way, so I'm not going to castle because the king actually wants to be on in the center and react to wherever black is trying to play. So currently, I think my king will be better on the queen side. Uh, so probably a good move here would be to either play uh, king king e2. I think king d2 is fine as well, but king e2 should be the best move objectively because you get out of the pin, you get your king to a more active square, and then you take the same amount of time to get to the queen side or the king side, even if you play king d2. So if you go here, and then you can do stuff with the knight. You can threaten to take the pawn as well. So uh, that is a probably what the best move was. But instead, I calculated a different line. here I calculated knight d2. I thought that he wouldn't want to trade because then his weaknesses will become more obvious. So I think a concept is that if there are weaknesses, trading pieces actually helps to clarify that weaknesses. It amplifies that weakness, because if there are lesser pieces to defend and lesser pieces to attack, even weaknesses become a lot more obvious. They are more easily to be exploitable because there are lesser pieces to do multiple jobs. That's the idea. That's a basic concept to know about. So I calculated uh, knight here, and then he won't trade, but instead he will try to activate his knight, and then oh wait, sorry, not that first. He has to push his pawn because he doesn't want to trade and he doesn't want to lose his pawn, and then I can activate my knight. He's going to try and get his knight in as well. And then I calculated that in the position where I play no, I think I play knight. I think I want to play knight a4 first, and then I play and then only knight b3. And I wanted to gain a lot of control over this c5 square. And at the end of the line, I'm trying to recall what I was calculating during the tournament. What did I calculate? I don't remember the specific line. Again, it's very obvious. Damn, like this bad habit of mine is very obvious. But I only remember the concept of the idea that I had was that I was going to force this push. I was going to gain a lot of I was going to force this push. I'm going to move my knights here, gain a lot of control over this square, and then eventually win back this pawn after I get my king to a more active position. So that was the idea I was going for. I want to control this square because I don't want to allow black to remove one of his weaknesses. Then I have two weaknesses to play against. So after moving my knights to here and here, wait, here and here, I will be able to play c3 as well, and then I will have a very ideal position. So that was what I was thinking. But what happened in the game was I did play queen knight to d2. He did play a3, and then I proceeded as planned. And here, I wanted to trade bishops because I mean it's his only good piece. When when pieces are developed and you have, like for example, you have more active pieces, right? You have more active pieces. Your pieces can develop easily. Like, you can just move and you can develop your pieces easily. And your opponent has trouble developing. So by trading off your opponent's best piece with your worst piece, like my bishop here was my worst piece earlier, but I wanted to trade my worst piece for his best piece. And now that the more mobile pieces are traded, I'll be able to once again emphasize the weaknesses. My active knights are much more active than his inactive knights, because knights the mobility of knights are limited. So like knights can only travel like this far, this like not very far away, while bishops can like go along long diagonals. So the lack of mobility will be emphasized, and my position will become very easy to play. So he plays knight a6. This was expected because he doesn't want to trade and allow me to get a nice position. Instead, he wants me to trade, and then he gets an active knight and can attack my two pawns. But actually, unbeknownst to him, I was actually at that time I was fine with that, because I saw that if he ever gets his knight here, I could play c3 finally, and he won't be able to capture my a pawn because I'll be able to trap his knight in time. And then so I play knight b3. I still control this c5 square. He finally trades, and then he tries to activate his knight. I defend my pawn, and he plays knight here. So as I mentioned, whenever his knight comes here, my idea was to play c3 and let him take my a pawn and then trap his knight with king d2. And after I played c3, I felt pretty bad because I immediately saw that he had knight d3 instead. So forking my king and pawn. So I can no longer play king d2 because he's going to take my pawn with tempo while attacking my rook at the same time. My calculation at the time after I played c3 was if he plays here, I'm going to play king f1. Now, I know it's going to be tough, but I'm going to play king f1. I'm going to play rook h3, activate my pieces, and uh and get back into the game that way, because yeah, it's not going to be so clear, but I think I still have a slight advantage. It's going to be a lot tougher, but I still have a slight advantage. But luckily for me, fortunately for me, he decided to take the a pawn instead. I guess that was too tempting because if you move your knight away like anywhere, then you are like, oh, I'm promoting, and that I guess is very attractive source of counterplay. But I was super happy when I saw that. I was like, yes, I anticipated this. My calculation was that I will be in time to win the knight after king d2, king e7. He wants to create a square for his pieces using his rook or to counter attack. So I attack his knight, he attacks my knight, but I can just simply defend my own knight, and now his knight has nowhere to go. No matter which square he goes to, I can just pick it up with my king or my rook, with my knight still guarded. So he's guaranteed to lose a piece here. His best try was probably to, I don't know, uh, take a pawn at least, because I think this pawn is more useful. He has pieces ready here anyway, and then he can create counterplay from both sides. So I think this is probably the move, but instead he played knight takes h4, grabbing the pawn that wasn't defended yet, with tempo here. But the problem with this move is that I don't have to capture the knight immediately. The knight is not going anywhere. So I just completely play g3, kick the knight back. If he tries to get in, I probably there's chances that I can trap that knight as well. So he doesn't uh he doesn't move in further with the knight, but instead plays c5. So c5 comes with the threat of pushing c4 and creating squares for his knight and his rook. So here I decided that it was time to actually take the knight. He plays c4, which was questionable because it doesn't really do anything, and it diminishes his counterplay. Like he makes the position closed and easier for me to play. So I just move my knight away, and he moves his knight away. So he moves his knight back, and then I just try to win the pawn with my rook, which maybe is a mistake. Maybe I can just take the rook because my king is doing a good job of preventing his rook from infiltrating. His rook can never get in. So leaving my knight towards the center is probably a better idea. So since that I can play more actively. But instead, I don't know why. I guess I played knight b1 instead. I wanted to win the pawn more cleanly. I don't even know if that's a valid reason, but it's probably a bad move. He plays g5 because his only source of counterplay is getting a pass pawn on the king side and hoping that my rook's out of play and my knight is too slow to catch up. But I know that I'm completely winning in this position. I just take the pawn, play h4, I trade, and I just check his king, push his king back further, move my knight to intercept the pawn. He moves his king right into the line of fire. This was where I started overthinking a little bit because I know I'm winning. I'm obviously winning. I'm very clearly winning. I can even take this pawn here, uh, because my rook is my rook was pinning the pawn to the king. But I was afraid that because of my knight b1 move, it takes an extra move for my rook to get back if necessary. And if I take, he's not going to mine material because he's just going to use the tempo to push his king. I come back, he's going to try and push his king even further, and then things might get a little spicy. If I try to block the pawn, he's going to move his pawn, he's move his king even further, and then weird things may happen. So instead, I play knight d2, getting another knight into the game so that I can control basically the entire h file. Uh, he moves his rook behind the pass pawn. In all of these positions, I always have this move, but I decided that, you know what, I'm completely winning. I'm ahead on time. He has 59 seconds. I have 7 minutes. I don't need to waste time calculating. I should be pressuring him, making him make obvious mistakes, and I'll be able to win comfortably. So I played knight f3, completely controlling the file here. Plays h3, just pushing further. And here is where I could have played uh, knight e6, knight captures, knight takes e6 with absolute certainty of of having no counterplay from black, because if he pushes and I come back and then he goes again, uh, I always have let me see. I always can come back and defend the pawn, and his king cannot get in quite close in time. Oh wait, he can't even play this move because my knight is protecting. So takes here, come back, then he can't even get close because this square is protected, this square is protected, and I can uh, play something like knight h2 or something, and I'll be in time to defend against the pass pawn. Let me double check. Double check. Takes. No, no, not takes. Takes, push back. He can't move forward, so he has to go back. And then I can play knight e2 blocking. Yeah, because it all comes with check. So if he doesn't go into check, instead, if he goes here, here, and then can I even take the pawn? Let's say I take the pawn, and then oh no, but if he goes here, and I come back, then the pawn is no longer guarded. So I think it's completely winning. Yeah, I think this is completely safe to take the pawn here in this position. Yeah, but instead I'm like, you know what? Already completely winning. You know what to do? Just lock it in. Rook a1, rook h takes first. Doesn't really matter. Rook h1, plays e5, but here I just take with check, and this pawn is guarded. So I'm guaranteed to win the pawn on the next move. He moves his king back, I win the pawn. He trades, and I just decide to win everything. Yeah. So here he resigned because there's nothing left to be done. I can take all my time in the world, and he has 2 seconds. I have 5 minutes, so he resigned this game. So, uh, I was it wasn't very clean for me. I definitely should do a better job of studying openings, especially specific lines, tactical lines, where there are very crucial moves, where tempo is very crucial. If you waste time doing one move, you waste time doing another move, you don't play a move, you don't play another move, you lack critical resources that can tip the balance of the entire game. um, I definitely should do a better job of memorizing it instead of just remembering the ideas. But it was very fun. This game was very fun because I never felt under pressure. It was my first time playing this opening ever. I've never played the Tau variation of the Caracan in my life, and it was a very nice taste of this opening. So all in all, I was very happy with this game. After this game was lunch, so uh, was it lunch? Yeah, it was lunch. So I ate my lunch happily. I was very happy with my performance so far. Wasn't completely clean, but it was great. Uh, and I had confidence that I could go through the entire day unbeaten. So after lunch, I came back. My next opponent was another. It was another civil war. I'm playing against Kaixing, which is also from NUS. On one hand, civil wars are terrible because it means that there's only one winner, or maybe if it's a draw, both of you are not performing the like you're not getting the most points. But on the other hand, I'm doing well in this tournament, and if I'm facing my own fellow NUS members, that means that they're doing well as well. So that's great. Oh wait, I need to change this text. It's now game 4. Oops. So game 4. So game 4, I've played Kaixing only once before, and it was in a training match, uh, not too long ago. I think 2 days ago or something. And I don't think that game really meant much because she just went for a wild attack after getting a slightly better position. So uh, and then she ran out of time. So I don't think it really meant much, but I felt that our average performance. Okay, I can't say average performance because she's a lot more consistent than I am, but our average strength, like if you take you ignore stability, I think we're around the same strength. And today I was doing well, so I felt that I could win. So she played d4. I played my usual repertoire, knight f6, and I decided to go for a Boggle Indian, which I have been playing. It's one of the newer black openings that I've studied. So I studied this, I think, a few months ago, uh, as an alternative, since I normally play the Nimzo Indian, but I started facing a lot of players that played knight f3, the anti-Nimzo, instead of knight c3. So I couldn't get any Nimzo Indian games. So I was like, hey, what if I just play bishop b4 anyway? And what does that do? Then I found out, oh, it's called Babu Indian. I decided to study a bit more into it. And I started to really like it the more I studied about it, because it wasn't a lot about engine moves. Like engine doesn't like this opening a lot, and it's not a particularly good opening at higher levels because objectively it isn't fantastic, but it is very strategic, very positional, and all about ideas. And you should know by now I'm all about ideas and concepts. So plays bishop d2, the only sensible move, because the whole point of playing knight f3 instead of knight c3 is to avoid the Nimzo Indian. And if you play knight c3, you transpose into the main line. So there's no point of you playing knight c3. You should play bishop d2 instead. And moving your knight here should be obvious enough. It's a bad move because you're wasting time and you're stunting your own development. So bishop d2 main move. I've decided to go for I think it's called Wade-Smith-Lowe variation with a5. There are two other main moves, Vitolin's, and I think this is called Alyokin variation. But I decided to go for a5 because it is the most strategic, most idea oriented. Uh, I think the more objective variation on the main line is to play the Alyokin, and the more aggressive tactical variation is to play c5. But I decided to go for a more strategic idea. I decided to go for a5, and also because I remember Jay, our ex team captain, our ex NUS captain, he mentioned before that Kaixing likes to play tactical positions. So I decided to go for the opposite, more strategic position. So there's a3 main move. You don't want to trade and give black an open file. You want to force black to trade instead. So I trade, queen takes, and I play d6. So now that my dark square bishop is gone, I want to put all my pawns on dark squares and let my bishop come into life. Especially if white decides to close down the structure, my knights will be able to do fantastic work as well. So knight c3, nothing unusual. Castles e3. So very solid from both sides. Bishop d7, preparing to play e5. He plays bishop d3, which doesn't stop e5, so I play e5. And she decides to lock down the position, which is fine, but it's not very good because strategically it's really better for black. My knights are in a better position to take advantage of this close structure, and so is my bishop. So I play knight c5, jumping in right away. I'm not actually threatening to take his bishop, her bishop, because my knights are far more powerful right now. But she retreats the bishop anyway. Bishop g4 attacking the knight, and surprisingly, I was very shocked, but she decided to castle. I think I took some time here before taking. How much time did I take? Oh, around 1 minute. Yeah, around 1 minute. Uh, to think that I was wondering if there were any tactical sacrifices or any absurd lines that I wasn't seeing. Was this planned, or maybe she wanted to mount an attack on the G file or something? But I thought for a minute, and no, I think it's just a bad move. So I just had to take, double up the pawns, and now I'm fully ready to attack. Then knight h5, clear way for my queen. I want to jump in with my queen, and I can play. My knight might seem useless here, but actually has a lot of potential help controlling this f4 square here. I probably want to push my pawns, or maybe I can sacrifice my knight in the future. So if she plays king h1, trying to make use of this g file, I jump in with my queen. If she didn't play king h1, or like if she did something else, I would probably check instead, or maybe I would just play queen h5 all the same. It doesn't really matter, because the point is that queen h5 and king h1 would play eventually anyway. So she plays b3. Not very sure what the purpose of the move is, but probably, yeah, I'm not very sure what the purpose of the move is. I would probably play a5 instead, b5 instead, if you really want to get counterplay on the queen side. But maybe it's to stabilize the structure, maybe it's to stabilize the structure and get ready to try and attack me on the king side instead. But I highly doubt that, because I strongly believe that I'm stronger on the king side right now. So I play f5. Since whatever she did didn't really stop me, the f5, get ready to get my rooks into the action, as well as prepare stuff like maybe f4 or e4, depending on the position, to stop, prevent her queenside pieces from joining the defense. So she moves rook g1 as expected. I play queen h3, just threaten the pawn. Defending the pawn, rook f6, preparing to rook leave. My idea is to move my rook over to the h file, get some pressure, open up tactics, and maybe I'll be able to suffocate her king side. So I'm trying to slowly mount up pressure. She plays rook g2, very not only defending her 7 rank, but also preparing to double up and apply counter pressure. But this was expected, because I wanted to slowly mount more pressure and to try and paralyze her position. So I move my rook over, waiting for her to move her what's it called, rook. Move her rook over to g1. I defend my g7 pawn, while still opening, allowing my knight to move. Because if I don't move my rook over, like if let's say I leave my rook here and do something, if I move my knight over instead, after she doubles up, my knight is sort of locked, and I don't want to defend with this rook, because I want to move my rook over here. So I double up my rooks and then defend with this rook instead, so that I can free up these two pieces. So with this rook, I've managed to free up these two pieces. She moves her bishop here, so she can defend the pawn with her bishop and then free up her queen, since the bishop wasn't doing much anyway. And then now I decide to push h4. So if she trades, that walks into a fork, and if she pushes, that means that these two files are my playground. I have much more space. Her pieces are paralyzed. I can eventually maybe even get knight g3 to work. So she plays e4, and now I have not really all the time in the world, but I have a lot of time to let my pieces take advantage of this space advantage that I have. So I play rook h6, just lining up. I don't really have any physical threats here, to be honest. I just decided to do that. And then queen c2, trying to get some counterplay on the queen side, I guess. And allowing the bishop to take responsibility of defending the pawn. Knight d7. I decide I want to slowly maneuver, not here, sorry. I want to maneuver my knights over to attack the basically win the exchange. So bishop e2, knight f8, bishop d1. Nothing much going on for her because her position is paralyzed. Knight g6, b4. Maybe you should have played that earlier. I don't know. Maybe uh, this could have come earlier instead. Instead of moving the bishop back and forth, I guess. So I just take and I move my knight over. So she moves her knight, her rook to the only undefended square by me. And I was super tempted, super tempted to play king h1, king h8. Because look at this. This entire h file would be occupied. And there was a Eric Rosen video that came out recently. I think it was in his second channel, his clips channel, and he occupied the entire h file in a similar position as well, in a similar attack. So uh and the thing is, it would be a good move too, because I would be walking out of this pressure, and in the event where I'm willing to give up this g7 pawn because it won't be coming with check. So that was something that I was super hyped about. But then also because of that hype, I told myself that, hey, you know what, my hype is clouding my judgment. It's going to affect my my playing. So instead I just take the pawn, win the pawn, check, defense here. And actually in this position I think it was mentioned in the commentary or something, like I watched afterwards, but I think there was knight g3 here. Knight g3 isn't possible in the previous position because of pawn takes. It's not like this move isn't possible because of this, and then this rook is pinned. So the only move here would be takes with pawn, and then I could take the rook. But I didn't see that in the game, I'll be honest. I didn't see that in the game at all. So what I saw was knight f6, moving his rook, displacing his rook even further. And then I wanted to slide my queen back and get ready to play on the queen side. I wanted to get ready to activate my queen this way, instead of maybe this would have been better, or like previously mentioned, just knight g3 would have been winning on the spot, I think. So fortunately for me, after pressuring her for 10 minutes, she now has 4 minutes, I have 7 minutes, so I still have a time advantage. I'll be moving very quickly. Not really quickly, but quicker than her. Um, she plays this move here, which seems which works very well for me for various reasons. One, I'm up on time. Two, her king has been stuck here forever. The rooks have been stuck here forever. Uh, it's easy to get desperate. And three, if you're stuck on the king side, you're going to look for counterplay on the queen side. And four, this actually looks very nice because you're threatening to checkmate, and it doesn't seem like there are very good ways for black to defend. Like for example, if you move your knight, or if you prepare preemptively with your rook or your queen or something, you are drawing back one of the attackers, and you're going to give your position more breathing room. So that looks very nice. But after thinking for a while, I decided that the best move was actually a very simple move, g6, stopping any counterplay of any play of rook a8 in the future. Like this pawn is nothing. I'm going to be able to win the knight. And if you move back, actually my knight is going to be active, my rook is going to be active. I'm going to be able to transfer my queen over to the queen side and win on the queen side now that the rooks are sort of stuck here. You know, like my rook is fine here because it's still applying pressure to the king. And if her rooks slowly unravel, like after assuming she defends the knight or something, and then I come back and I try to play on the queen side, she takes a lot of moves to activate her rooks. And if her rooks get too active, like go too much on the queen side, I can actually come back and pressure the pawn and with the help of this rook over here. So with my more active pieces, she tries to run with king g1, but I simply take the knight. Queen check doesn't do anything anymore because after rook f8, uh, the queen is under attack, the king is under attack soon, and my position is completely winning. So in this position, she resigned the game, and my tournament standings look fantastic. I'm 4-0 now, and leading my board. So, oh, how is somebody looking at this? Oh, wait, never mind. But yeah. So I was super confident here, and uh, very much anticipating my next game. I felt that with game 3 and game 4 against Sticks and Kaising, I felt like I had faced my strongest opponents already. Like most of my strongest opponents already. There was still one more higher rated player, and I felt that if I could beat that player, I would be in perfect position to score 7 out of 7. So I was a bit excited, a bit nervous, and yeah. And the next game is the critical game of the tournament. So let's see how that game went. Game 5. Oh, if anyone is here, by the way, feel free to talk in chat so that I can say hi back. Yeah, because sometimes just looking at numbers, it's like, eh. But if you come and say hi, then it's a bit more fun, you know. And so this game ended nicely for me. Again, nothing objective, but again, I'm not a grandmaster, so played fairly well, I guess, with threats of yeah. So in my next game, unfortunately, the results are going to be spoiled because as of all the games earlier, like you can see the results already, and unfortunately, I lost this game. As you can see, I have a 0 over here. But I think the game was still very interesting. Uh, and my I don't think I played badly, but being unable to form middle game plans and navigate through middle game position made me lose a lot of time, and because combined with the internet issues that I talked about in my prior video, ultimately made me lose the game. However, I'm still pretty happy with my performance in this game because I think I played some good moves, and I actually my awareness was on point, I think. So let's just go through the game. I played e4 again because I mentioned again and again I want to play e4 more. Play c6, which I'm happy to see because I've been studying in Khan and the Sicilian. So seeing one of them makes me happy. D4, d5, and again I go for the advanced variation. He plays bishop f5. So again I play the tile variation. So h5 again. I sing a lot again, a lot of agains. And this time I didn't want to play bishop g5 because um, I noticed that during the tournament, this player, this opponent, was checking my games a lot. Like I saw him in the spectators, at the bottom here. I saw his name a lot in the spectators tag there. So I thought that, bishop g5 is not really a good opening. Uh, like if you look at it from an engine. So I was worried that with the little time between the two games, and with lunch in the middle as well, maybe he could have looked into those lines and and like maybe memorize the engine lines afterwards. So it wouldn't be very helpful because I didn't memorize any engine lines at all. So his engine preparation would have been useless. But just to be safe, I decided to play a different variation instead. So I played this bishop d3 line. The idea is to trade off light square bishops and try and gain dominance over the light squares. So the main move is to take, and take the queen, and he plays e6. And here I transpose by playing bishop g5, attacking the queen, and black cannot play f6 because of queen g5. So this will get messy, and I'll be able to get a very active attacking position. So instead, he defends with the bishop. He did it probably after seeing my game. He doesn't go queen b6 and allow for this transposition. Yeah, he probably doesn't like that game. So he defends with the bishop, which is a normal move, and I continue developing. Um, he develops, I develop. So I develop to c3 instead because I want to maneuver my knights here. In the event that he trades or something, or he tries to, the only way he can develop his knights is through here, and I want to actually trade off this knight with this knight, which is the purpose of my maneuvering. So he plays queen b6 now, but I'm not afraid of him taking. This is a poison pawn. If he takes this pawn, I can check and take this pawn here, and my position is overwhelming. His king is very pressured in the center over there. So I castle. Actually, I don't even have to castle. I can play something else instead, but I didn't really see any particularly strong moves. And I wanted to tempt him to take, so I just castled. And now if he takes, I think I can either uh, check. I can attack the queen with this rook instead, and definitely super overwhelming position after here, you know. And the queen is in danger of getting trapped as well. So he decides that now is the time to trade dark square bishops. So I happily take with the knight. There's knight h6 as expected, and then I play knight e2. Although the threat of trapping the queen, yeah, the threat of trapping the queen is still very real because after here and here, the queen has nowhere to go to. Everywhere else is defended by my queen or my rooks. So I'm preparing my maneuvering, meeting this move with this move. He decides to castle queenside, which is normal, and I play rook g3, bishop knight g3 here, which is probably a mistake because him castling queenside, funnily enough, actually makes it impossible for him to play knight f5 because he needs to guard against this fork. So with that in mind, I shouldn't have played knight g3 because the purpose of knight g3 was to meet knight f5. But if he's not going to play knight f5 anyway, my knight has no business being here on g3, which you'll see later in the game proves to be true. He plays g6 trying to stabilize, but actually creates a weakness here instead. So I decide to, you know what, I'm just going to play c3, not only to solidify my pawn chain, but to prepare his kingside, a queenside attack as well. So rook h e8, nothing much. I don't really know what that move is for. Seems like a nothing move. Maybe defending this pawn in anticipation of some pawn push maybe. But I play queen d2 so that if he pushes the pawn, I'm willing to trade knights. And because I thought that my queen would be more active, and the open lines I thought would be fine because I would have more pressure and win enough pawns to make up for it. So king b8, prophylactic move, always play king b8. b4, I begin to push my pawns, f6, and I trade knights, winning a pawn. Except that I don't really win a pawn after pawn takes. So now his rook is lined up, threatening to take, and my queen isn't looking so good. His files look nice, and my position isn't looking very great. Here I should probably take the time to get my knight out of this miserable place, either by moving it back to knight a2 or moving my rook to the e file and maneuvering my knight this way instead, which was something that I kept trying to do later, but it was too late at that point. I keep trying to find time to play this move or this maneuver and solidify my king side, but unfortunately I couldn't do it in time. I overestimated this weakness here. I thought that these pawns be terrible, and they are terrible, but I thought that it would be good enough for me to allow the opening of these lines, which proves further that concepts aren't enough. You need to actually calculate to see if those concepts actually work, because in this case those concepts were severely misguided. So I played queen g5, just getting my queen out of the way, and he decided to double up rooks. I took the pawn because I felt that if I allowed him to take the pawn, I'll be in a worse spot. So I thought that I could take the pawn and then continue playing the game. But this, I think, was a mistake from him. I thought taking with the rook was stronger because it comes with tempo, and I would find a lot of trouble. Even if I take the pawn, I would find a lot of trouble with these pieces locked here, and then all my queen side will be falling. It doesn't matter that his king side pawns are gone because my king is unsafe. So I think taking with rook might have been stronger, but maybe that's just a mistake at the time during the tournament. He takes rook with knight, keeping this pawn protected. And here, once again, I was trying to calculate uh, knight e2 to free my knight, or rook e1 to free my knight this way and play g3. But I was always afraid of this sacrifice because I will be forced to take and then win the knight here and with an overwhelming position. So I decided to just move my queen back, defend the squares, so that in the event that he does sacrifice, I can catch it with my queen while protecting my knight somehow, and it's not that bad, you know. Then he hides his king because I was pinning the knight earlier, and then maybe here once again should I play this move? Or at least even this move. Actually, does this move work? No, that move doesn't work. That move doesn't work. Rook e1 doesn't work, but maybe this works. But if that move, then this comes with tempo. I still go here. Yeah, I probably should have played knight e2 or something. But instead I played a4. I never had enough time to do anything. I didn't have time to play a5, a6. I didn't have time to play knight e2. I didn't have time to play rook e1, knight f1, and g3. So this middle game was all about not having enough time, both in the chess sense and in the literal sense. As you can see, my time, although I'm still ahead, I played very quickly in the opening. I played super quickly in the opening. Attack his queen, which I believe is the right move because it comes with tempo and it's a very useful move. I'm trying to get in a6. So after he retreats his queen, I move my queen back, defending everything. And perhaps if he goes back, I can prepare this. But if he goes back, I realize that once again I don't have this move because he always has this sacrifice, which isn't really it's a temporary sacrifice that results in him having a better position. So this was painful. So I couldn't see what I could do. I want to play a6, but I don't think it amounts to much because you can just play b6 or b5, just close up the position, anything. A6, b4 or b5, and just lock things up, and I have no more play on the queen side. So instead, I play queen d4, trying to guard this pawn because it was under attack with the queen. Still defend everything while trying to increase the potency of a6. But unfortunately, he plays a6, stopping my a6 idea. And I played the worst move of the tournament, of the game. I play what I think is the worst move of the game because I mentioned earlier I have no time to do anything, and every move is very precious. So what I played next makes no sense objectively. I played rook a b1. And this move is terrible because it's nothing. It's doing nothing. Desperation play of pushing just makes one more thing that I have on my list, like one more idea that I don't have enough time for, It's like you have so many ideas that you want to play. You have this, you have this, you have so many ideas that you want to play, and you already have no time for all of them, and you create another idea that you don't have time for. And that just makes all of your other plans even more impossible to pull off. So that was pretty terrible. This knight g4, cutting off the protection of my queen to the to the pawn, and now this is forced. So of course I saw this, but at that point I felt that my position was pretty terrible already, and I spent a lot of time uh, in one of my earlier moves. I think, where was it? Okay, let's see how much time. I spent 10 seconds here, 20 seconds here, and then 1 minute here, and 1.5 minutes here. Yeah, so these, and I spent 1.5 minutes here, and 1 minute, 2 minutes, 2 minutes here. So these 3 moves lost me 4 minutes of my time, and I went from being ahead to being down, severely down on time, because I was in a slightly worse, like actually pretty worse position, pretty much a very bad position, and all I could see were ideas that I didn't have time for. So I lost a lot of time in this position, and I should learn how to play these types of positions more. Probably need to study these types of positions more after reviewing these games. So this is forced. F3 is forced. It's my only source of counterplay. Queen takes h4 is what I calculated as well. Takes the pawn, and here I should be completely lost because he's threatening to checkmate me, and this is my only move. But surprisingly, he trades rooks. He trades rooks. The whole point about winning this pawn and like, taking this knight, and why this is so bad of a position, is because my king is very unsafe. You have destroyed all of my counterplay, all my control over my h file, my f file, my e file. So the way to go is for sure rook e4. It comes with tempo, it attacks my queen, and you prepare this instead. And there is nothing I can do except give up my queen and lose. So that was probably winning on the spot for him. But thankful for me, he trades rooks, and I now have a drawn position. I think this is definitely a draw. But here I'm pretty proud of my endgame play. I think I did pretty well especially considering that I'm down 3 minutes on the clock, 2.5 minutes, but 3 minutes on the clock. 2.5 minutes with my additional decrement. My ping issues, my decrement. I'm losing time on my opponent's move. So I checked. He retreated the queen, and I managed to win the pawn. I was going to win the pawn anyway. And now I have a pass pawn. Sure, black has a pass pawn as well, but in endgames, it's not about how many pawns you have, it's about how quick your pawns are. And if he tries to if he tries to check, right, because that's the way to get a draw in this drawn position. If he keeps trying to check me, I can actually try and outplay him. If he makes some wrong checks, I can hide my king away and push my pawn at the same time. And if my pawn gets pushed further than this line, like if he gets here, I'm definitely winning because it's going to be faster than this pawn in any scenario. So I'm pretty confident about my winning chances because I think my ability to sense the change of the tides uh, of momentum and stuff like that, and when the position has actually shifted drastically, even though it seems like there's nothing going on, I think my ability to do that is actually much greater than his. So I was feeling confident on all fronts except for time. Time was my bane in this game. So he checked, I defended because if we trade, this is completely winning king pawn endgame. My king can get in front and escort my pawn to victory. So I move up, and for the next few moves, I focus on getting my king to a position where he cannot do any good checks, because my queen and my pawns are actually very, very nicely defending each other. So I just spend time getting my king safe, and now here he has no checks. Trading is bad. Every place is guarded, and he doesn't have anywhere good to go with his queen. So he retreats his queen, and I push my pawn. This is my time. So he senses that I'm trying to go for a win here. So he rushes his king to the to a more active position. But probably if you really wanted to hold a draw, you should just keep checking. Like, I don't think if he checks properly, that I can ever get out of check, and it will probably end up in a draw. So maybe he wants to play for win as well. Who knows? Because he's up on time. I play g5. If he allows me to push, I'm going to push. I will reroute my king. Check. I don't mind his king getting closer. And here I spot the winning idea. Like, this is still drawish, but I spot the winning idea here. So this maneuver is very important. I cannot let his king get close, because if his king is close, I cannot try and trade off my queens. And because if he wins this pawn, then I have no winning chances anymore. And in fact, he's the one with the pass pawn. So I need to get his king off from being close. And this was the maneuver that I found. Checking here. He can't get close, he has to go back. So wherever he goes back to, I can check here. And the point is, I can get this move. So now my queen is guarding this f file, which is very important. His king cannot get close. His king cannot get close. And now if he checks, I will be able to get my king close to safety and I'll be able to escort my pawn. So I was very happy during the game that I found this idea. And with 1 minute of the clock as a bullet player, I was confident, even with ping issues and time trouble, that I was going to win this position. However, disaster struck when, after checking, and trading queens is always fine for me as long as I keep my queen on the f file. This is good for me. So here I run my king up, and I want to escort my pawn. So my king is shielded by the queen, and once again he cannot trade queens because that is completely winning for me. If he goes after this pawn, I will eat up all his queenside pawns. So he goes check here instead, and I make the critical blunder. I'm not really upset that I made this blunder, because it's very human and I don't have any time. I have less than 1 minute on the clock. He has 3 minutes, so I don't blame myself. I mean, I've spotted the winning idea already, keeping my queen on this f file, getting my king close to escort my pawn forward. But I was very afraid that I knew that I was going to lose this pawn, but I didn't want to lose it with check. So the winning move is to play king f6 and just let the check help me instead, because this pawn is unstoppable now. But at that split moment, I made the wrong decision. I said, you know what, if I lose the pawn, it's okay. I still have chances. I'm just going to hide my king instead. I made a terrible blunder, king g4. So now not only do I lose the pawn and make no progress whatsoever. So that's even worse. So something to take note about: being in check isn't scary if it's helping you instead. So that's a very important lesson. At this point, I think it's either a draw or I still have the same idea. Like, if I manage to check the king and then get my queen back here again and then get my king, I can still escort the pawn, except now it's a lot harder because now black has a pass pawn as well. So I'm not sure if I'm winning or it's a draw in this position, but I should not be losing for sure. So I play g6, I push the pawn when I'm allowed to, move my king to a more active position, and here I should do the same maneuver again. Check, force his king back, prevent his king from getting close, and try to get my queen along the f file when he comes to check my king. So instead, I with 20 seconds on the clock, and I think during around here, yeah, you can see that I have 40 seconds, right? In the next move, I have 27 seconds. I lost a lot of time, but the thing was, in my perspective, from my perspective, I played the move instantly. Like I played this instantly, so started to get, I panicked here because I was like, oh no, I'm losing a lot of time. Like all of a sudden, I have around 1 minute, and suddenly I'm below 30 seconds, and then the beep started, and I'm like, oh no, I played this move instantly, but I'm losing time on my opponent's move, and I panicked, and I was like dreading, and I was like very depressed about the entire internet issue and stuff, and I was like, it got me super out of the game. So I felt like I had no time to go for the same maneuver again. Like, check in, uh, check again, get my queen. After he checks me, get my queen to the f8 square, get my king over and push the pawn. I felt like I had no time because imagine, right, if every move you make takes away 10 seconds from your own clock, 27 seconds, man, you're not gonna have time to convert. So I'm like, whatever, I'm just gonna make random moves. I don't care anymore, and then I'm just gonna make checks so that at least my pre moves are instant, because if I make moves and then he takes time and then my move gets sent over to the server earlier, then whatever, I'm just gonna make instant moves. I'm just gonna pre move everything, but you still see I lose time. I'm just gonna pre move everything, but I still managed to lose on time. So unfortunate. Sad end there. So that really messed up my mentality a lot because I got a favorable opening. I think I got a favorable opening, equal mid game, and then I messed up the mid game, but I got an equal end game. I created chances from the end game, and then I lost due to time trouble. So I'm not too upset after the tournament about my performance in this game, but I was very upset during the tournament at the time because I was trying to get 7 out of 7, and all of a sudden this happened, and I was like, oh my god, internet issues, time issues. It's not even the gameplay, like, it's not even a chess issue. Come on, like, that kind of deal. And I was like 4-4, and all of a sudden I lose this game, and I'm starting to feel pretty bad. And then this game took so long as well. I think we were like one of the last games to end on our board. So the next game started soon after, and I was like super in a very tough mindset, in a very rough mindset. And as you can see, I lost that game as well to a opponent lower rated than me. Now this game was my worst game of the tournament, my absolutely worst game of the tournament. He played e4, and normally against a lower rated opponent, uh, not really normally against a lower rated opponent, but my usual repertoire is to go e5. That's what I normally play. But uh, being slightly tilted and in a bad mindset, I decided to play a French instead. It's not like I don't know French theory. It's not like I don't know how to play the French. I used to play the French before I played e5. No, I played e5 first, and then I started to get bored of facing the Italians and the French and the Spanish all the time. So I played the French a little bit, and then I played a lot of different openings for a while, and then I went back to playing e5, but more gambits this time to spice things up. So my main repertoire now is to play e5 gambits, but instead I decided to play a French, and thought to myself, you know what? Even if he exchanges the French, like even if he avoids all of my opening, like all of my attacking opportunities, I'm still going to just outplay him. I'm going to raw outplay him, which should signify we should be setting alarm bells in my head already, because I'm a player who loves to study openings. I love ideas and concepts. And if my idea and concept going into this game was to play an exchange French, symmetrical pawn structure, and outplay for a win, there's something wrong with me already. So looking back, there was really something wrong with me at the time, but nothing to do. The tournament's already over. So e4, e5, and he plays an exchange French. So it's okay. Still opportunities here. Plays knight f3, pin this knight. bishop b5, which is not a good move. And here I should play c6, like that is the normal move to play. But c6, he can play c3, and then it will be a symmetrical pawn structure. So me wanting to create imbalances and outplay my opponent, played knight c6 instead, and I wanted him to take. I wanted him so badly to uh, take on c6. If he takes, I might even castle queenside, I might just castle queenside. If we trade queens early, like, if he does this, and if he tries to get a draw quickly, like, trading queens somehow, I'm probably even going to castle queenside and play this like some Scottish game, an end game, and try to win the end game. But he just castled, played knight f6, developing normally. Actually, not really normally, because normally, uh, if you want to keep hopes alive, you would probably play something like bishop c3 and develop a knight here after rook check and then castle. But knight f6, like I said, I wasn't really myself. I guess it's also being myself, because being unstable and being unreliable is part of me. So I guess it is myself, but I wasn't the previous form that I was in. So play rook e1 check and defend the bishop, and I'm forced to castle anyway. So instead I get a worse position. Instead I could have gotten this and castles. Instead I got this and this instead, which is worse. So I just miserably castled, and then I even provoked him to take. Like, this is such a terrible move. A6 is such a useless move. I even force him to take my knight, and try and flex that my two bishops are supposedly better, which they are not. C4 is a bad move though, so I'm happy to see that. Play bishop b4, uh, pinning the knight to the rook, and now with two pins, I'm actually in a better position here. Plays queen c2, which is a blunder, because he moves out of this pin, but he doesn't get rid of this pin. So actually here, I should take the knight right away, and he has to take with the pawn, and I'm in a better position already. But for some weird reason, some stupid reason, I decide to put more pressure instead. Plays a3, which does nothing. So I take now, which is a bit too late, but still okay. And then I take with the knight, because I want to keep my bishop. Although trading would be objectively better move, I already have a better structure already. Like, even though we both have double pawns, my double pawns are stronger than his double pawns, so I'll be completely fine with that. But I wanted to provoke him to play c5, and then attack his pawns, his weakness instead. To just in the wrong mindset. So I played bishop d6. Even bishop d6 is so bad. Like, even if I wanted to play against this pawn, I should play bishop e7 instead, so that I can come here quicker. But I played bishop here instead, trying to go for this. c5 was played, and I was super happy to see c5, because like, hey, you know what? I can play bishop e7 now, which I should have done in the first place. So bishop e7, and then I was like, yay, now I can attack the weakness. And then he just defended his pieces, got ready to double up rooks, and I moved my rook here for no reason, put a little pressure, which is nothing at all. You can just play b4. I just move my queen up, getting ready to contest the e-file, but he was quicker. This was a blunder. Totally no reason to do that. But I just wanted to get to the king side. I was like so delusional. I was like, whoa, take my pawn, go ahead, I'm gonna attack you. Whoa, rar. But that move did nothing. He just went back. And now he has control over the e-file. Forced to take, takes with the queen. And I was like, yeah, whatever, just get me out. Play attack the queen, but back rank. So I resign here, because after rook takes, this is checkmate. So I ended the game. I think I was the first loser of this round, and of course it was terrible to lose in such a terrible manner. I think I played like a 1000 rated player or something. Yeah, it was a tough loss, but on the bright side, it means that I had time to reset. So after this game, I hurriedly went to get to take a walk, just like close my screen share, close my webcam, went to grab a drink of water, wash my face, lie down a little bit, and just reflect on my tournament so far. So I started to give myself a pep talk, try to motivate myself to focus again. um, you know like all in all, it's not a terrible tournament results wise. Going I forgot to I just realized I forgot to update my game. So it's actually game 6. Winning 4 games out of 6 games. One of them was due to internet. Like, it's not your fault. Like, I know it's not good to say that, to shift blame, but in this case, relieving responsibility is good for the short term. So I told myself, it's an internet issue that I lost my 5th game. It's okay. This game, like, it's bad. I need to stop doing this. I need to refocus, shift from this mindset, and uh, you know what? I'm still in contention to get top 3 in my board. Like, top 1 is impossible anymore. In fact, Kaising is in position to get that title instead. But you know what? I'm going to reset. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to play for my own tournament. Remember, this is a team event. I'm going to try to score as many points for my team as possible. I'm going to play for a win. I'm going to focus. I'm going to win more points for my team. I'm going to try and play to crush the next person, because at this point I already played all the high rated opponents. I had 3 high rated, like relatively high rated games in a row. My third, fourth, and fifth games were against my top 3 opponents. So I already faced all of my top 3 opponents. I'm going to crush whoever I'm facing next. That was what I decided to do. So in my last game, I faced against only a slightly lower rated opponent, 1910. But as I mentioned in my first video, I'm underrated. I'm over 2000 for sure. So as you can see, spoilers, I already won the game. But uh, I not only wanted to win the game, I wanted to win in a dominating fashion. I wanted to crush my opponent. I wanted to fully focus and win. So I played knight f3. I decided to, you know what, I'm not going to play e4 anymore. I'm going to focus. I'm going to play my usual repertoire and I'm going to crush this person. So I'm going to play knight f3. He played d6, which I was slightly surprised to see, because after finishing my game earlier and then lying down a bit, I came back and I was like, looking at some of the games, and I looked at some of these players' games, and I saw that he plays the Chigurian defense. So, like my first opponent, he plays the Chigurian defense. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I don't mind the Chigurian defense. In my opinion, that's a inferior defense. So I'm happy to prove my opinion right anytime. But instead, he surprised me with d6 instead, going for a Pierce, probably. But I'm fine. The Pierce isn't very scary to me. I just played d4. I played Bishop g4, which is very unusual. I don't mind him doubling my pawns. In fact, that's fine. I play c4, continue to grab more space. I intentionally don't play e4 because I'm inviting him to take, and then when I take back, then only I play e4, because I don't want to take back with the queen. I want to take back my pawn and build a strong center, keep my king in the center, and play that game instead. Avoid theory. So he plays g6. Very curious to see that he still hasn't played knight f6 yet. But he plays g6, transposes into some sort of hedgehog, King's Indian, Pierce. I don't know what this opening is. Defense. I just play knight b2, knight b to d2. Plays bishop there, and then I provoke this bishop trade. If he wants to trade now, I can take back with the knight. If he goes back, trash his bishop, and if he retreats, I'm fine with playing that position. So he retreats all the way back, so I think he just wasted time. I play e3, solidify my position. I don't need to go all out attack so quickly. So he plays knight f6 eventually. I play b3, and I create this pawn structure that I like. I enjoy very much against this Fianchetto structure. I like this structure a lot because I can counteract his fianchetto, and if he castles, I'm not castled yet. I can still play a4 a5 and attack him on the king side. So he plays e6, hedgehog structure, very weird. I neutralize his fianchetto bishop, his knight c6, bishop e2, castles, this is normal. And here I thought for a while, do I want to go all a4, a5? You know what? Never mind. It's okay. I'll just castle. He made a lot of inaccuracies already. I'm sure he'll make more inaccuracies in the future, and I can punish those instead of making dubious sacrifices myself. So d5. I just trade, and I grab hold of the semi-open file. So this move I don't think is very good because I'm completely fine with taking. And here I enjoy my position a lot because his king is somewhat exposed to my bishop. That is one of the advantages of trading. You open up more squares for a bishop, and I'm not scared of his f4, f5, f4 push at all, because my pieces are all ready to defend my f-file. So I just contest the contest is pushed immediately with f3, and if he takes, I'm happy to take with my knight or even my rook. I don't really mind because this square is so nice for my pieces. This square is also very nice for my pieces. So if he takes, I'm spoiled for choice. So instead I play it's his turn, sorry. So he plays queen e7. He doesn't want to take. He wants me to take instead. But actually, even if I take, I don't mind that position because he defends the pawn, yeah, for sure. But I can just attack the pawn more, and my f-file is completely safe. This pawn will prove to be a weakness, I think, if I do trade. But instead, I'm like, you know what? It's okay. If you don't want to change the pawn structure, I'm just going to place my pieces on good squares. So this knight c4 move is very nice because it is a very multi-purpose move. It not only gives me more space, like it provides more breathing room to maneuver my pieces, and it defends this pawn in the event that he does capture. If takes, this pawn is overprotected, and then it also threatens to skewer the queen and the rook, because previously it wasn't defended, and now once I move my knight can defend my bishop this way. So this is a very multi-purpose move. He plays rook ac8, completely missing the threat. So I go ahead and play bishop a7, bishop a3. Maybe he saw the threat, but he thought that he could get away with it with knight b4. But I saw that this was completely fine because I had queen d2 attacking it once more, and he should have played c5 if he wanted to try and cling on, you know, but it wouldn't help because I can just trade, and then now I have pressure on the d file as well. Yeah, and then his bishop will be in trouble, and then his knight will be in trouble. His knight is hanging, his bishop will be hanging soon, and then he'll be in a very tough spot. But instead, he plays a5, which makes things easier because I get a free pawn as well. And then only he plays c5, and I just take away the pawn. He has to retreat his knight because it's under attack, and then he can't really take back the pawn because he will be pinning himself again, and this would be a very godly bishop. So he retreats his knight, and taking the knight would be winning. But instead I decided to take even more pawns because with the idea of maneuvering my knight here and getting a fully operational bishop pair. Like my passed pawns, fully operational bishop pair, outposts here, strong pressure, control over the files. Like this is dominating. This is already completely winning in my opinion. This bishop e5, which maybe to prevent me from moving my knight here, but it doesn't do much because after I don't even need to address it immediately. I can just play rook fd1, pressure the bishop more. I'm not threatening to take the bishop, and out of desperation he plays queen e4, queen h4. Maybe some delusion of trying to checkmate, like maybe, you know, give up this and then like, oh, come here, and maybe I can't stop the checkmate in time, I have to run. But even if I run, I'm completely fine. Actually, I always have time to check and run and even checkmate him first. But I decided to shut down his counterplay completely. f4, make him feel miserable. He tries to move away, but I don't mind. I'm just going to take the bishop because after he takes my knight, I'm completely winning. After queen d5 check, um, king has to move there because nothing else defends unless he wants to give away material. So he has to run, and I play e6. So the reason why I checked my queen instead of checking with my bishop was because checking with queen preps my pass pawn to push, and I allow this bishop check later. So I check with the queen and I push e6. So here e6 is completely dominating because I'm threatening bishop b2, and uh, if he doesn't do anything, I can take this as well. So imagine if he does nothing, like if he, let's say he tries to, I don't know, uh, play this maybe, then bishop b2 only move pretty much. I can come back with the knight, but I'll just take it. Can try and block, but I'll just take it. So here I can even take with check, and then his only move is to defend with the rook, and then I can promote, and I'll be checkmating very soon. Like, I don't even have to calculate the force mate. So that is what happens if he just moves the queen like that. And if he doesn't move the queen, if he tries to protect his bishop, like maybe here or maybe here, like I don't think there's much difference. Maybe here, because you stop the promotion square, but still this comes with this still comes, and this still comes with check, and yeah, after this it's a completely winning position. I can do anything I want. I can go here, I can go here, I can even take and then go here. Everything is winning, so it doesn't really matter what I do at this point. So fortunately for me, he decided to play queen g3. Oh wait, queen g3 was the actual move he played. Oh yeah, he decided to play queen g3 for whatever purpose, maybe trying to get some perpetuals or something. Trying to get some perpetual here, maybe, but it's not going to come in time. Bishop b2 check, king moves, and I take with check. Defense with rook. I take the knight because actually I can even promote takes and takes, and it will still be winning. But I decided to just take the rook. I take the knight. He gives me a check. If he wants to take my bishop, go ahead. He does, but I just check, promote with check, take, because this is force mate, check, and the force mate is of course this move here. So in fact, no matter what he does, it's always mate there. And if he runs the other way as well, this is a common checkmate pattern, so this was pre-movable. So instead, after here, he just moved his rook over to shield his king, and he resigned this position. So very happy with this game. I felt that I managed to do what I achieved. I managed to crush him the way that I wanted to, and I managed to create this very beautiful bishop pair from hell. Like imagine if the game lasted longer, if he didn't go for material and instead tried to protect his king more, I would be able to get this very beautiful, fully operational bishop pair from hell. So that concludes the games from my tournament. Those were all of my games in the NUS Invitational. So in the end, I managed to score 5 out of 7, which results wise isn't too bad. I managed to get third place for my board. Actually, we can have a look at that now. Where's the link? Let me go find the link. Link. Yeah. Can you see? Yeah. So you can see, this was the final standings. I managed to get third place. Even though I had the highest performance rating out of all 3 players, I had the highest performance rating because the opponents that I played had the highest ratings, uh, which is normal because I am the lowest rating among the 3 of them. Among the 3 of us, so it's normal that I have a higher performance rating and a higher average opponent rating. So I managed to get third on the board, and still not too bad. It could have been great. It could have been amazing. It could have been the best chess experience of my life so far. But instead, it became a worthwhile lesson for me instead. And I think I improved a lot through my studying process for this tournament, and I hope to become more stable, more precise, and more while still maintaining my creative concepts and ideas. Yeah. So all in all, pretty happy with this tournament. I'm not really sure if this was my best performing tournament ever because I haven't really participated in many tournaments and I don't think I ever did well. So maybe yeah, this probably is my best performing tournament. I actually have to go back and check my previous tournament games to be sure. I don't have a grandmaster memory, as you can tell from my opening lines. So I have to double check to see if the question mark can be removed, but in the title can be removed. But yeah, that is all from me. Thank you for watching and have a nice night and rest. Yeah. Oh, there's one person watching right now. If you can say hi, say hi. It would be nice to see more text in the chat instead of just my lonely hi over there. But yeah, anyway, I'll be ending the stream soon. Thanks for tuning in. All of you who did, or any of you who are who is watching this in playback. For example, Lau. I think he watches some of my videos. Um, GG's to everyone, and overall, my team and US Team B also won third place in the tournament. I think it's not official yet because they're still doing like the fair play checks. But if nothing goes wrong or if nothing weird happens, uh, we should win third place. And that is probably my first chess award that I've ever gotten, like officially. So yeah, it's gonna be a nice memory, important lessons for me, and that is all.